Good evening, everybody. Just letting people in here.
Good evening.
We'll wait just a couple of minutes. I am we'll get started in just a minute. I'm just waiting for a few more people to get into the meeting. We have one person by phone at 316-371-9399. Can you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Leva, thank you. We can.
Hi, Paula.
Is that you? That's your phone. Okay, great. Got it.
Yeah, I lost my iPad, a new one.
Okay, thanks very much.
Bummer.
I'm kind of waiting for a guest to arrive and then we can get started. But since he is on the agenda first.
Hi, I just wanted to clarify. I think you were asking about my phone number. My name's Caroline. I'm just a person who lives in Queen Anne. I was curious what the council meetings are like, so I'm just listening in.
Okay, that's fine. That's great. You just, when we didn't have a name, I just wondered who it was. So thank you.
Caroline. Is that Caroline Alpert? I guess she's gone.
Yeah, no, not Caroline Elkert. My name is Caroline Engel.
Oh, okay. Just Caroline's such an unusual name.
Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 4 minutes after. Beth, and actually, Bob, I'm going to make you a co-host as well, Bob Kettle. So if you see Officer Weissmiller come into the waiting room, would you please let him in? I was going to get him on the agenda first, and I hope he is actually able to join us. So welcome, everybody. We are being recorded for those of you who didn't hear the little announcement. I think we have enough board members to call the meeting to order. There he is. Great. So, okay. We'll give him just a second to get in. All right. So Officer Weissmiller, are you with us? I can't. Here he is. Okay, we're going to take our agenda a little bit out of order this evening because we have a special guest with us, and we weren't sure if he'd be able to join, but I'd like to welcome Officer Sean Weissmiller, who is a Queen Anne resident, and I had the honor of being selected as the Officer of the Year this year for the city of Seattle. So I have a really glowing report here about Officer Weissmiller and what he does for the city and for us, because he is on patrol in Queen Anne. And I'd like to definitely recognize him and thank him for his service to our community and the city at large. So with that, I'm going to read this accolade that was submitted by by Lieutenant Randy Ward. So Officer Sean Weissmiller is originally from Old Lyme, Connecticut, and served 12 years in the United States Air Force as a combat photojournalist. During that time, he documented both combat operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as humanitarian operations around the world. Officer Weissmiller is a graduate of Syracuse University's Newhouse School of Communication with a BS in photography and political science. Upon graduation, Officer Weissmiller served as a fellow for the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, and then as broadcast editor for military information support operations in Afghanistan. In 2018, Officer Weissmiller joined the Seattle Police Department. Since completing FTO, Officer Weissmiller has been assigned to patrol Second Watch, West Precinct, Queen Sector, that's us. During this time, Officer Weissmiller has served critical roles in numerous high-profile incidents, one of which was an armed robbery investigation where a local convenience store was robbed at gunpoint. Officer Weissmiller quickly collected video footage of the suspect and disseminated the imagery department-wide. Later, while responding to an assist fire call, Officer Weissmiller spotted the suspect wearing the same clothes. Officer Weissmiller and Officer Carmer Clark quickly changed gears, notified communications, and took the armed robbery suspect into custody. So Officer Weissmiller has collected accolades from the Queen Anne community for his incredible dedication to duty and focus on community members impacted by crime. One such occasion, during a recent severe winter snowstorm, Officer Weissmiller purchased propane for a crime victim living out of his vehicle. The propane allowed the community member and his dog to withstand the sub-freezing temperatures. Officer Weissmiller paid for the heating propane out of his own funds. Officer Weissmiller has also focused on long-term problem areas within his area of responsibility, such as the Hillside Motel, which everyone is very familiar with here. Over the course of 2021, the Hillside Motel became a hotspot for criminal activity. The motel became defunct and squatters took over the property. Shootings, narcotics activity, overdoses, and prostitution were increasingly an issue in the area. Officer Weissmiller personally responded to calls at the Hillside Motel to include deaths, overdoses, vehicular homicides, and domestic violence-related calls. Officer Weissmiller developed personal relationships with staff and property owners, as well as tenants, to develop a plan to address the criminal and public safety concerns from the location. Officer Weissmiller assisted the Seattle Police Department's ACT team to identify criminal elements residing in the motel, and SPD's JET team to conduct a public safety assessment. Officer Weissmiller worked with his chain of command, the development company, and hotel staff to develop a plan to close the Hillside Motel with the assistance of outreach organizations. Officer Weissmiller has participated in community events and developed lasting relationships with residents, business owners, and community members. He's truly invested in his community and demonstrates that daily. He's also established meaningful relationships with the Seattle Police Department, which has allowed for critical connections to follow-up units during complex investigations. Officer Weissmiller has developed a valuable ability to acquire critical security footage during crimes in progress and images of violent offenders. Officer Weissmiller has been able to disseminate these images, resulting in numerous arrests and positively identifying outstanding offenders. In closing, Officer Weissmiller has been an incredibly hardworking and dedicated member of the West Precinct since joining the Seattle Police Department. He's respected by his peers since they know that he can be counted on and remains calm in the most chaotic and dangerous situations. He's a pleasure to work around and always willing to assist his fellow officers. He sets a very high standard for himself and raises the bar for everyone around him in the process. I'm very proud of Officer Weissmiller's accomplishments and significant contributions to the West Precinct and to the city of Seattle. And with that, I would like to personally extend my thanks and congratulations, our thanks and congratulations to Officer Weissmiller. Thanks for all that you do in the Queen Anne community and again, the city at large. We're proud to have you as a neighbor as well. So I don't know if you can activate your video camera. I can't see you. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I can't activate the video, but I could hear you just fine. And I very
Okay.
much appreciate the congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm sure that Bob Kettle is going to second that and may have some, oh, there you are. Great. Good to see you. And we hope to see you around the neighborhood, but only on a good reason.
Of course, I'd like that as well.
But to what Paul was saying, yes, from the committee, from the public safety perspective, definitely appreciate your efforts. For those on the call, I've spoken to Officer Weissmiller a number of times, most recently in my neighborhood during the snowstorm, and I've been working these various issues and really appreciate not only his, but his colleagues as well, who are looking out for the public safety of Queen Anne. And I'm sure he's quite embarrassed with that long list of the citation related to the West Precinct Officer of the Year. But these are the things you have to suffer through when you get selected. So congratulations.
I tried to edit it down, but I couldn't leave anything out. So
I appreciate it, but this is I'm fortunate to work with the people that I do, and it's a team effort with this department, with this precinct, and it's been a pleasure serving the Queen Anne community. So again, thank you.
thank you very much. And you can stay with us as long as you'd like, or if you have, I'm sure you have plenty of things to do too. So feel free to jump off when you need to. So thank you again for joining us this evening.
Yeah, I do apologize because I just got done with an investigation and I have to go back and start writing the report.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Okay. Okay. So now we'll move into just our normal business portion of the meeting. So I think everybody on the board has seen the March minutes. And are there any corrections, additions to those minutes? And if not, do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Margaret? Thank you. And a second, please.
I second it.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, the meetings are approved. There was a very brief committee report summary. The Public Safety Committee, I think, was the only committee that met this last month. So I would like to ask that that become part of the minutes. And then Ben, if you'd like to give the treasurer's report and bring us up to date on how much is in our piggy bank.
Sure. We're starting to see a little bit of activity. So currently in our general account, we have $1,478.72. And in the appeals account, we have $1,425.24. So for the general account, we have a contribution of $52.50 with an interest of 11 cents. And for the appeals account, we had a deduction of $2,000 for the tree pack donation with an interest of 20 cents.
Thank you.
Hey, Ben, excuse me. Ben, can you say what the appeal amount, the balance is? I didn't.
Sure. That is $1,425
425.
and 24 cents.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And I will mention too, although it hasn't hit the bank account yet, we did receive a very nice donation from Joan Smith, who is Jim Smith's widow. And I sent a thank you note to her, and that was very kind and gracious of her to do that. So Jim's legacy lives on.
Are you free to tell us how much it is?
Yes, $250.
Oh, wow, that was really nice.
So, and that one will have no fees associated with it because it was a check. So
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
he's very generous of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, moving right along. We have another guest this evening, and that is Janice Traven. Janice, if you can wave your hand, there you are. Janice is with the Magnolia Community Council, and I would say she and I have been working, but she has actually been the brains of the ST3 review for the Ballard Interbay segment of that project. I've also been attending some meetings with the Uptown organization. They're looking at the stations that will be in Queen Anne. So anyway, I asked Janice if she could do an overview for us this evening. And our goal is to devise a document that can reside on the Queen Anne Community Council website that will make it super easy for members of the public to anyway, to go to that document. You'll see what the recommended preferences or requirements or whatever it is are that come from this review. You can click on one of them, all of them, and they will submit automatically as your comment as well, assuming that you agree with those. As you know, the draft EIS period ends April 28th, so time is getting fairly short. It's an extraordinarily complicated project with an incredible amount of information. So if you dig into it on your own, you'll see, and I give Janice great kudos. So with that, Janice, if you'll unmute yourself and let me know if you'd like for me to bring up any documents.
Okay, well, sure. Let me give an intro first. I serve on the Community Advisory Group for the Interbay to Ballard segment. And I think that that's a really good thing because until now, neither Queen Anne nor Magnolia has had somebody affiliated with the community council who has served on that. And I've tried to make the representation show. It's been great working with Paula on this. And as she pointed out, the deadline for comments is April 28th. We have been in conversation about making comments or sending out an email that incorporates enough information and easy links for comments that point out what we think is important. How will Magnolia and Queen Anne use this segment? And where do we want to go? If there's light rail, where do we want to go? How long will it take? How easy will it be? Because otherwise they could put stations wherever and it won't get used. So with that said, yesterday, there was a meeting yesterday for the Community Advisory Committee. It's the last meeting before the comments are due. And those of you who know me know that it's a big deal for me to say that I'm kind of speechless about the meeting. It was really head spinning. There were a couple of things that surprised me in terms of conversation from other advisory committee members, mainly from the guys. I'm 5 feet tall and I have gray hair and I have no fear whatsoever about going anywhere on the New York City subway by myself. No fear whatsoever. And there was a bit of discussion that had not come up before about how we need to have elevated stations so people won't be afraid to get on light rail. That was surprising and it seemed like a very bad idea for policy. But I don't think that that's going to go anywhere. What was more important about this meeting and the reason that all of the work that we've done until now, I'm not sure whether there's going to be a delay or not. I saw that Carol Burton is on the call or in this meeting. Maybe she would have some ideas. This meeting had two important parts other than the community group talking to each other about how afraid we are to get on light rail. There were two very important parts. It was some review of the city's comments on the DEIS. And that was interesting. And I don't know, based on what they presented, which we'll show you in just a minute, whether that means that more work is going to be done on the DEIS. Don't know. They also, Sound Transit also presented some, what they're calling cost-cutting concepts and some possible realignments, which 3 weeks before the comment period ends, again, it was head spinning that you're telling us this now, you know, how are we supposed to respond? If we say yes, what happens? You know, does that extend the period? So those are unknowns. What was known up until today is that I think there's general consensus with Magnolia and Queen Anne that the stations that will best serve us are, oh, and also the Ballard District Council apparently is on hiatus. They've disbanded. So we don't know where they stand on where the station is, what they want to do or how they're going to respond. But prior to all of this, we have been in agreement that the best station for the South Interbay location is one at Gaylor Street. That would lead to a 17th Avenue West station, which would be a lifeline for Magnolia. It's not on, you still have to cross a bridge to get there on Dravis, but it's flat, and if all of the other bridges are out, at least we would be able to get out of Magnolia that way. And that station would be what they're calling a retained cut, lower than grade, that would lead to a tunnel in Ballard. We were in agreement that it would make sense to have a station in Ballard that takes us places that we want to go. You know, we're putting in this big investment. Why lead to a couple of breweries? Why not lead to a place where we can get to the hospital, medical offices, shopping, historic Ballard, or, you know, the place where people are going to live and density is going to go in instead of an industrial manufacturing area. So we were going, that was, and it may still be the alignment that we're going to push for. Right now, the westernmost station location that they're looking at is at 15th and Market, which would require something like 3 years of shutting down a section of Market Street. Or no, I'm sorry, a section of 15th. So whatever it is that we're looking forward to, we're going to be in a world of hurt for construction. So with that said, Paula, could you bring up the city comments? These are just a couple of pages from what the city shared with us on our segment only, comments that they think are important. And this would be regarding the stations, the South Magnolia, or the South Interbay Station, which is either going to be at Prospect or Gaylor. Yeah, that one.
City review findings. Okay, great.
Yeah. So the West Seattle Ballard segment is entirely within the city, the bounds of the city. So what they have to say matters because they're going to have significant input. We're not seeing it yet, Paula.
Oh, you are not?
No, I think you need to share the screen. What they have to say has significant impact in terms of permitting and stuff like that. So still not seeing it.
Yeah, give me just a second. It says that, it says I'm screen sharing, but apparently I am not, so. Let me try again. Okay. Can you see anything right now?
I can see you.
Okay, let me do this. Okay, just. Okay, now let's try it. Did that work?
Okay, there we go.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so, and again, somebody, I am not an expert on DEISs. Maybe somebody in this group is. I don't know what it means really when the city says more analysis is needed to ensure compliance with, and there are two of the proposed stations for South Interbay, either the Gaylor or the Prospect locations, that either of them on Prospect would affect a critical slope along Kinnear Park. So they think that there needs to be more analysis for critical area regulations about Queen Anne Hill impacts, the noise regulation, because this is going to be in the middle of the road, stormwater, probably for any of them, whether it's elevated or at grade. And now the navigation, tribal, maritime business impacts, if they do a tunnel, which it seems like they're planning to do or leaning towards it, that won't be an issue. The visual aesthetic impacts, if they have like 0.4 of a mile on Elliott Way, the property acquisition impacts to future Seattle City Light substation in Interbay, which is sort of the first time. I know that City Light has some properties behind QFC off of Dravis, but this is the first time with our group that that's been raised as an issue. It's also right next to where the storm facility is going to go in. There are significant residential displacements with that occur with the tunnel options coming out of Queen Anne Hill. And we have to question, is this the time to be displacing housing in any place? So anyway, I'm not sure what the impacts to Fire Station 20 would be, particularly if it goes on the west side of 15th. So I think this was a 2-page thing.
Yes.
Is there?
Mhm.
Okay. So they need more information. And again, I don't know what this means in terms of they would need to see more information in the final EIS or before they finish the draft. So the SIB 1 is the preferred alternative, which goes to West Gaylor. And again, this would have an elevated guideway actually on Elliott. The current plan calls for it to cross Elliott twice. And then the second item there is about the environmentally critical areas, the steep slope. So in other words, there are some serious problems that they're addressing there. There wasn't, and I don't know what this means in city speak vis-a-vis the final EIS. I don't know whether this is code that they're speaking to Sound Transit. It wasn't clear. This wasn't a long enough meeting. I have asked questions about that. The meeting took place yesterday. I've asked questions about this. I have not received answers. So why don't we go to the next item where they talk about some other ideas which are coming in 3 weeks before the end of the comment period, or 2.5 weeks before.
Sure. Can we back up to one point, Janice?
Of course.
I think that your comment about residential and business displacement
Yes,
throughout the segments, if I'm, correct me if I'm mistaken, but there were 3 proposals originally, 2 for bridges going from Queen Anne or Interbay over to Ballard, which would be huge.
right.
But the preferred option, of course, is for a tunnel under the ship canal. And if I'm not mistaken, putting the tunnel under the ship canal actually results in fewer residential and business displacements than any of the bridge options.
Not exactly.
Okay.
Depending on where the Seattle Center location ends up being. One of them is a little bit farther north, one of them is a little bit farther south. One of them would lead to the preferred alternative to Gaylor, which is just south of the Magnolia Bridge. For Magnolia residents, that's a better option because if you're coming down the bridge, you could get off a bus or a circulator and then get onto light rail. So that would be preferable than going all the way down to Prospect, which, you know, let's face it, would just be an Expedia stop.
Right. Okay.
That's all that it would do. So 2 of those options, the one that leads to Gaylor and another one that's elevated and goes to the west side of Elliott eventually. Those both affect houses on the slope of Queen Anne south of Mercer. One around Republican, one around Mercer. And a lot of the multifamily housing there is something like 175 units would be affected.
Okay. Okay, got it. I was thinking of a
So-
different location.
And
on
then,
the- on
and then the other one that would not be compatible with going to a tunnel would be on the east side of, it would really affect the slope, and it would be on the east side of Elliott and then cross over once you get up to Armory Way. It would cross over there. But that wouldn't require, that would be a tunnel that would come out closer to Kinnear Park and Mercer, and that would not require housing coming out, but it would really screw things up once you get to Ballard because you would have to do one of the bridges, and then the navigation tribal maritime business, all of those other things would be affected with that option.
Okay. Good. That's-
So is that, was that like too much, too fast, clear, unclear?
I think if people haven't dived into it, it's probably,
Yeah,
I think
but
when
then
you look at the map, they'll see a little bit better what you're talking about.
if you
the
haven't dived into it, stay away, just trust what
Yeah.
we tell you and make comments from that.
Yeah, it's,
Janice, Paula, can I ask Janice something?
sure. I'm sorry, I can't see who's asking. Go ahead.
Oh, it's Marina. Sorry,
Right ahead.
I have my video off.
Yeah.
Janice, thank you for like really being on top of this. It's amazing. I just want to clarify, you're saying that they're leaning towards the tunnel under the canal and away from the tunnel that would come out around Mercer? Do I have that correct?
No, there are two different tunnels that we're talking about.
Right, right,
The Ship Canal crossing to get to Ballard is one tunnel.
right.
The options right now are elevated, either a tall bridge, a short bridge, or a tunnel leading either to 14th or 15th. Essentially, the Coast Guard is saying you're not going to build a bridge. That screws things up too much. It also takes out all kinds of maritime business, all kinds of residential business. And as it turns out, a tunnel is going to cost less. So that's one tunnel. The other tunneling that we're talking about is the Seattle Center stop, where, or whether it's going to be Republican or, you know, something in between, that is going to head west towards Elliott 15th, you know, up towards Ballard. It's going to emerge from a tunnel somewhere. So
Yeah, I just didn't understand that part. I understand the two tunnels. I did look at this, particularly because as someone who lived back by the Ballard Bridge, I really think it's important to assess everything carefully there. But what I didn't understand is if you said if they do the tunnel near Seattle Center, that somehow impacts whether or not they can do the tunnel under the ship canal. Did I hear that correctly?
So in the alignments that they've presented, what is currently on the table in the DEIS has 3 alignments.
Right.
The preferred alignment and the one that they're saying costs the least, up through, you know, from the Seattle Center up to Interbay, up to the 17th, is one that comes, was that the pink one, would emerge from around 5th and Republican, sort of on the hillside. And then it would be elevated. It's kind of hard to see, but it would emerge elevated and kind of crisscross 15th for 4/10 of a mile, and then go east of 15th. And below on Gaylor Street, around where the flyover is, there'd be a station there. The other option coming out of, and that pink line gives you 2 choices of where to have the South Interbay Station. You could either have the Gaylor Street, which the Port and Expedia and I think the Magnolia community prefer in terms of being easier to get to, would be the Gaylor Street. The other option that that exit from Seattle Center could lead to is a Prospect Street station across from the Helix Bridge on the east side. I think it's on the east side of 15th. And that would be an elevated station that would then cross over Elliott there and head up behind the Armory, behind the golf course to a 17th Avenue, preferably it would go down to a retained cut, a below grade station that would lead into a tunnel. And that 17th Avenue station is the one that's closest to Magnolia. And for those of you, I'm sure that everybody here knows this, but I keep having to repeat this with the group. Magnolia is a peninsula and we are connected by 3 bridges. We have had closures in the past. The Nisqually earthquake was 21 years ago. And prior to that, we had significant closures at the Magnolia Bridge, which is almost 100 years old. We are also connected at Dravis Street, which is that very short crossing over the railroad tracks. And then there's Emerson, which is a longer crossing over the railroad tracks, but that's by Fisherman's Terminal. And the Emerson crossing has been reduced by 1 lane for safe bike lanes. Dravis Street so far has not been, but it's if one of those bridges goes out, it takes 45 minutes to leave Magnolia. So the idea of having something close to Magnolia where if things get, you know, royally screwed up and buses could just circulate within Magnolia and drop off on the other side of that short bridge to Dravis, that would be a godsend. That would be a lifeline. So we're advocating for a stop there. And then from there, they would go to one of the brown lines. Right now, what they're talking about is something that goes to 15th or something that goes to 14th in Ballard. So that's the premise that we've been working from and looking at, and asking the questions. Where do we want to go? How long will it take us to get from 17th to Seattle Center? Like, how will this actually work for us? What do we need? What are the requirements? If these stations go in, what do we need? Do we need, kiss and cry? What do they call it? The kiss and cry drop-off center nearby? Do we need buses? Where do we need the buses to go? These are all things that we're looking at and should be in comments. And then if you want to go to the next.
Before we do that, one of the things that I also want to make a quick comment about is access for everybody on Queen Anne is dependent similarly on where the buses will go, that are normal buses. Where do they go to either the 17th Street or 17th Avenue West station, or Gaylor or Prospect, this is Prospect and here is Gaylor. And also, will there be circulator buses that prowl the neighborhoods somehow and have certain spots that feed over to the light rail? Or how do you get there? If this is great if you live along 15th, if you don't, and you're on top of or on the east side of Queen Anne, Northeast especially, how are you going to get over here to these stations? In addition, what isn't on this map, and which we're having separate conversations with the Uptown folks, is about the station that will be in Uptown. And that's being looked at by them, because there are proposals for a station that actually not surfaces, but you could exit on the Seattle Center campus. And the other option is on Mercer. And as you can imagine, either one is hugely disruptive in terms of the construction impacts and the length of time for closures. And how does the city work with the communities around those closures? Because the idea, there are segments, for example, if Mercer Street is chosen as the location of the station, there are 2 segments of Mercer that would be closed for 5 years. That's an incredible amount of time. Similarly, though, if it's on the Seattle Center campus, the scope and scale is gigantic. And what is the impact then to the arts communities and all the things on campus, plus things like vibrations and that sort of thing. So, so just really quickly, I want to point to a few things for people who aren't familiar. When Janice talks about the first tunnel, this exit right here, this little U-y thing, that's where one route of this preferred, one route would exit from underground, and it'll become an above ground elevated rail line at that point, crossover Elliott once, twice, we're saying once, and it'll go to a station where you can get off and on. The other tunnel exit or entrance, really, that she's talked about is this one right here at the north end of Enter Bay, which goes into then an underground tunnel that would pass underneath the ship canal and avoid either of the bridge options that were proposed, and neither of which is a good idea. And Carol Burton, I see you have your hand up, so jump right in there.
Just a little bit. I was on the advisory group for the Smith Cove station, and the question of shuttle buses came up from both. I mean, it's almost impossible to get down from Queen Anne. I mean, there's no good route, and there's no great route even from Magnolia. You almost have to have either divert existing buses or have a circulator shuttle bus. I don't know if the Sound Transit listened to us, because they didn't listen to us about much. The one on Prospect, they thought would be great for Expedia, but the Expedia people at that meeting said, no, we'd much rather have it over on Gala. So,
Yeah, as would the port.
yeah.
So they
The
also,
thing about the environmental impact, one of their alternatives, which I don't think is going to fly, and I think it's that sort of either green or turquoise one, is projected to run, I think, under the Magnolia Bridge and behind that big storage unit. I mean, at
yeah,
one
that would be one of the blue lines.
yeah, at one point they were talking about
Yeah.
going over that storage unit, and that's 50 feet from the ground up. No way. But on the other hand, that part of East Queen Anne is a very unstable slope. You know, I can't see any geologist or hydrologist saying, oh, let's dig into that slope and put rail lines up there. No, I don't think that one's going to fly.
Yeah. Yeah, the route that goes along this right here, where it either goes, or I don't know, maybe it's not on this map, I can't tell, it's too small,
No,
but
this is a slide that was presented
okay.
Yesterday, which is opens up a new and somewhat provocative can of worms.
I see that, yeah. In any event, yeah, so there was one option that ran along, believe it or not, the west slope of Queen Anne up against the critical slide areas, and it was sort of questionable as to who thought that up. So that one I don't believe is on the drawing board actively anymore. So
Yeah. So just an aside, one of the things, having sat in a lot of meetings, one of the things that becomes clear if you talk to any metro planner is that they're very good at looking at maps, and they don't take into account the topography. You know, like Dravis looks like it's a straight shot on this map, but you know, it's a very steep slope coming from Queen Anne, and it's also a very steep slope going up to Magnolia. So the notion, you know, one of the appeals for the Prospect Street stop was that they could do a connection through Kinnear Park so that pedestrians could get there easily. It doesn't seem to be a great pedestrian route, but
It is the only way on that side of the hill to physically get down, though.
right. But is it something that tons of commuters are going to actually use? Or so these are questions that are great questions and should be in comments, or we've been trying to think about how are we going to actually use this.
Yeah, Janice, I would add my 2 cents about Dravis and Kinnear, which is think about lugging a suitcase.
Right.
I'm sure that's come up, but you certainly couldn't do it through Kinnear.
Right.
And I'm thinking about trying to get to the airport in a snowstorm when the main roads are clear, but you can't get off Magnolia or Queen Anne. So you could hypothetically use the light rail, but Dravis is the first thing they shut after Queen Anne Avenue. So yeah, I see your point.
Yeah.
And
So
for people who have mobility issues, this is all compounded dramatically. So
right. And it's very easy looking at a map. Things make sense looking at a map. So why don't we go to the next one, which really got my head spinning yesterday.
yeah, here we go.
Well, no, go to the first page.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so they were looking at the question. No, that's actually the second page.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, no, I guess that is the first page.
Yeah.
So one of the Sound Transit has been listening in terms of we want this to be affordable. We want to be able to deliver the voter approved plan in the timeline that the voters approved. And right now, we're already looking at a delay of 2039 or something to get up to Ballard. So they thought, how could we deliver more affordably? And there are some things that they're looking at for, and this is for the entire route, not just for the Smith Cove up to Ballard segment that that I'm involved with. How can they make this work more efficiently, and also taking into account some of the comments that people have made? And one of the comments that a lot of people have made is, well, Sound Transit is experiencing very, very, very high right-of-way and property acquisition costs, and that's expected to only go up over the next 15 years. So that's why they found that the tunnel to Ballard, which they originally were thinking would be $350 million or $400 million more than a bridge, suddenly are comparable in price, or maybe a little bit less, because they don't have to pay for the right-of-way overhead, and they don't have to pay for property acquisition. They just have to sort of find their way around water mains and utilities. So one of the concepts that they're putting forward, and this immediately set off alarm bells in my head, because of the lifeline to Magnolia, is actually a fairly provocative idea. And Paula, could you move it a little bit to the left?
Yes.
And that is from Queen Anne, instead of, they were taking into account some of the concerns that the city had about long closures, because this part of Elliott would be closed for something like 3 years, mainly at night. And this is a major freight route. So what they're proposing in this green line, and this is just a concept, they're saying they have not priced this out. They haven't really entertained it other than a conceptual thing. And they were looking for input as to whether they should ask the board to direct them or to investigate it more. The concept is this: whatever the tunnel from, I think they're looking at Mercer, would continue as a tunnel under Elliott, under the Helix Bridge. This would all, the solid green line on the left of your screen is all tunnel until it emerges at a spot, the Seattle Armory location. It would be behind 15th. And they're talking about consolidating the Interbay station with this station. So there would be nothing between this and Ballard. And then from that station, it would continue to tunnel under the Ship Canal to a Ballard station. So suddenly, this prospect that we've been scared away from, which is tunneling is too expensive, it's going to cost the earth. Now they're looking at an all tunnel option, which in some ways is, my head was spinning, because it's like they're listening and they're also screwing Magnolia. So it also is kind of interesting, because they've come up with a solution that in many ways satisfies, it looks like the consummate deal making or compromise where nobody's happy. But if you go to the next slide, this is some of their thinking behind it. And some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't. So these were some of the considerations that they were hearing, most likely from, their engineers or from the city of Seattle. They're during construction, and then once it's constructed, there are going to be traffic impacts on Elliott. Whatever the plan is, unless they, build up the hillside on Queen Anne, the preferred alternative has a guideway in the middle of Elliott. it's going to take away some left turn options. It's going to be there. It's going to be noisy. So this tunnel option would avoid the parks and the green belt issues. It would avoid the steep slope issues. It would avoid the traffic impact issues. They're saying a minor reduction in overall ridership. And that could mean everybody in Magnolia and everybody on Queen Anne. It would avoid the former landfill. And again, I'm not an engineer. I don't know what that means. Avoids the railroad and interbay properties, which is the storm facility, and what they're talking about is putting in apparently a Seattle City Light substation somewhere in that area, and then would tunnel to Ballard. So I asked the question, as long as you're tunneling, why not tunnel to like 17th or 20th in Ballard, where people actually want to go? And maybe that way you could put in a stop in Magnolia. But anyway, so this was a new concept that was just sprung on us yesterday. I have no idea what this means in terms of, if they decide to look at it further, what that does to the DEIS process. It's tantalizing. Paula, do you have that slide of the Oregon Health Sciences tramway? I think if they put a tram, this would be a wonderful thing if they could install this in Magnolia and also in Queen Anne. It really would solve getting people to that station.
I don't know if I might have it.
I think it was in an email that I sent you.
Yep. Mini email.
This would delay it another 2 to 3 years, because you'd have to start all over again with an environmental impact statement. The
And that's a
rules
good
are
point.
quite rigid on that. You
It's,
can't change or add anything after the scoping period, or you have to start over again.
But yeah, there it is.
yeah. Okay, so you can see this on the screen. Soon. Perhaps.
It was loading, but
There.
this, yeah. So this is what they have already installed in Portland, Oregon. And it leads up the hill to the medical center. And basically it's a tram that runs every 4 minutes, and it wouldn't need to have, I mean, they could have circulators just feed into it in a location on Magnolia Hill, on Queen Anne Hill. Ride your bike to it, take a circulator to it, take the tram down to the station, take the tram back up to the station.
And in Portland, the bus stops at the tram.
Right.
Well, this is a video of it. We probably don't need to watch the video, but
Anyway, so I had seen that as like, well, yeah, if they put that in, then we could do it. But I mean, that would be like another $40 or $50 million. But when you're talking about a $1.8 billion shortfall, that's not even real money.
so Janice, for me, the question, and I assume that Sound Transit's going to get back. I mean, the fact is we're basically, can I stop screen sharing, or does anyone have?
There might be one more page for that. Oh yeah, there's one more page that shows how they're imagining people will get to that station.
Okay. In the documents that you sent me?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, the next page.
Okay. This one?
Yeah, the third page.
These are the only pages I have. This one? Oh, this.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah, that one.
Right. Yep. It's kind of big, but we'll scroll.
So they're talking about, they're assuming that that House Street is a trail, or that there's a trail, House Street, that's going to make it very easy to get down there. I think that they're talking about a location that is where Whole Foods is right now.
But this is a station on 15.
Right, but there, it would be like a tunnel and surface.
Oh, I see.
It wouldn't impact 15th.
Right, right.
So they're showing bike connections and some pedestrian connections there. How it's compatible with the BERT study and the various bridge studies, and serves the Armory, which it's unclear what they're imagining the Armory is going to be, but unless it's a megaplex, it doesn't seem like that's going to be easy to get to by anybody. But it is a tunnel, and it doesn't close down traffic for 5 years after the Magnolia Bridge is rebuilt and the Ballard Bridge are rebuilt. So that had my head spinning yesterday.
So and that raises the question I started to ask is like, again, I mean, we're like 3 weeks away from the end of the comment period.
Right.
And so will the comment period be extended? I mean, this is sort of like changing horses in the middle of the stream, because
Yes.
what is the point of commenting on other options that ultimately they're going to say are not affordable or have other issues?
So that brings up one item that we were going to that we were planning to direct comments towards. It is legitimate as a comment to suggest something that isn't part of the current plan, or as we were planning to comment, there was an alternative in Appendix M of the DEIS that discussed going from a site near 17th Avenue West, not the location that they're planning right now, but a tunnel portal, I think at Thorndike, that would go to 20th Avenue West. And, it is something that they've kind of looked at and engineered a little bit. That kind of thing is legitimate. I don't know whether this is or not, other than saying tunnel all that you can.
Right. So let me share kind of the concept. I'm gonna go to one more document really quickly. So this is a concept that Janice and I had worked on. It's not complete by any means. And based on this most recent meeting, it may not even be relatively current. But the concept was to prepare a document that could be, as I mentioned, like on the Queen Anne Community Council website. I also had communicated with Maria Barrientos and the folks at Uptown Alliance about incorporating comment segments for that part of the ST3, because it's in segments, and that happens to be part of the downtown segment. So reviewed and overseen by a different group. In any event, to have something like this where each of these individual requirements, for example, there could be a master comment, you would click on a link right here, it would populate an email completely, and you could just send the email as your comment. Or if you didn't want to support the entire comment section here, you could click on, which of the requirements you personally like or don't like. You can always edit the email as well. But anyway, so that it makes it very simple for the public to provide comments, at least based on the general preferences, general findings from Janice and her team and the CAG that have spent lots of time working on this. I'm going to stop screen sharing here. Anyway, so that's the concept, and I'm hoping that we'll get there. As Janice said, if you haven't dived into this, it's thousands and thousands of pages of information, and it's not necessarily the easiest thing to follow. So,
Well, I have been surprised at how if you want to find out what properties are going to be affected, if you live on the west side of Queen Anne in that area and you want to see if your property is going to be affected, you can find that out pretty easily, but you do get into like a million gazillion rabbit holes. It's there's so much information, and what we presented, trust me when I say that's like really distilled down, and it's still too much. So
are there any other questions for Janice? I know this is a complicated issue. We were kind of, yeah, Denny?
I have a question. Janice, I know Janice pretty well, so Janice, don't take this wrong, okay? But I'm assuming other people think the same thing. I agree with you with watching out for Magnolia because you guys have some major issues over there. But I must be missing something because it seems to me if you guys get your way, and I don't want to put us against you, okay? But
no,
it
that's
seems
why we're talking.
Okay, but it seems to me, and I must be missing something, you're getting further and further away from Queen Anne, and it makes it harder for us. So it's to your advantage, and I get what you're saying, trust me. I've tried to drive that road, so I'm not against it, but I almost feel like it's just getting further for us. So I'm just, I'm being selfish right now.
And I hear you. I agree with you. I think that, unless you live near Uptown, it's not convenient.
Mm-mm.
It's not convenient for Magnolia either.
No, you're right.
Unless there are circulator buses going around frequently. I mean, we have Rapid Ride. And this is an example that, I bring up at every one of these meetings. We have Rapid Ride available to Magnolia and Queen Anne. Runs along 15th, and I don't know what the frequency is, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. It could be every minute. But we can't get buses except every half hour to 40 minutes from Magnolia to get to this frequent, bus. So it doesn't do us any good. Right. Unless you can get there. So if there's a way to get there, if they have a plan to get circulators in, seamlessly.
Right.
Which I say that word and it makes the Sound Transit people kind of giggle. But if there's a way to get there seamlessly or easily or quickly, or if it's, tied in with the frequency, then that's the goal. But right now, it's not. Neither of the stops is convenient for Magnolia or Queen Anne.
So has anybody, I don't want to keep belaboring this, but I remember when they built the one in Portland and so forth, the tram.
Mhm.
And you now probably dead before they'd ever get the tram built. But for future generations, it seems to me that it would be cheaper to go totally underground because then you don't have all the land issues. You have one major stop, take the money you're going to save and build us a tram, eat both ways. So the people on top of Queen Anne can go quick, the people on Magnolia can go quick, and they'll save the money with one stop. It's at a good location and it doesn't disrupt all the traffic. You don't get all the stuff in the air and you're done. But has anybody thought about that? I think it'd be.
Paula and I were just thinking about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this
It cost you anymore.
the single station concept in Interbay
Mhm.
just surfaced yesterday. So Up until yesterday,
Yeah, that was news.
there have been two station concept, one at Gaylor, which they refer to as Smith Cove, and one at 17th West, which is Dravis. And so then the concerns are, getting there, circulating through, or getting there by bus, or having circulator buses, whatever has to happen, and not have pedestrians having to cross 15th or Dravis. So those were the concepts that everybody has been working with for years. Now, as of yesterday, there's a new concept, which is a single station, which conceptually, because it's in a tunnel, that's good. It's sort of in the middle, sort of maybe kinda, which is sort of good if you're in the middle and can get to the middle. It's not so good in that it does increase the distance then that people coming from either Magnolia or Queen Anne are going to have to travel if they use that particular station. And again, what feeds that station? Is it a tram? And golly, I mean, you're right. The tram will be well beyond my lifetime. So if they get it built and don't incorporate a tram into the plan, then will the tram ever get built?
Never happened.
Of course,
Right.
question.
Then we're in trouble.
Yeah. Or what kind of commitment will they make for convenient circulator buses that, again, circulate through the neighborhoods and take you to that station? Otherwise, people won't use it. It'll be too far. It'll be highly inconvenient. And unless, if you were in the northeast portion of Queen Anne, you would have to walk a long way. And probably at that point, my walker is not going to make it that distance, or my wheelchair or whatever. So, I mean, and we have a very large population of senior citizens and young people on Queen Anne. That's quite a hike for kids to make if they're taking that light rail to some location as well. So, and how long does it take you? Because if it takes 2 hours to get to the light rail or something to go to the airport, I'm not going to do that either. So those are good points, Denny. And unfortunately, there aren't really good answers.
And one piece of good news is that this line will be single seat or one seat to the airport, and they're expecting it'll be, they say about 45 minutes, but that doesn't make sense because it's 45 minutes from Westlake.
Yeah.
So, but it will be a one seat stop. So I see that Julia Reed had said that there used to be a tram developer who was active in lobbying in the city.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Julia. I used to work in the mayor's office as a policy advisor, and I did actually a fair bit of really early work on the Sound Transit Ballard West Seattle connections. Yeah, when I was in the mayor's office, I don't remember his name, but there was a local developer who was very active in lobbying trams, though I think in his instance, it was because he had a financial stake in the Ferris wheel and he wanted a tram. He wanted the city to put in a tram from like the parking lot at Pike Place to the Ferris wheel, which we did not do for obvious reasons. But this seems like it would be a much more like reasonable request. And I put a link in the chat that in Colombia and Medellin, they actually have use aerial gondolas as part of their public transportation system. And it's also a tourist attraction. So people, and like you could foresee people who come for the cruises or come from downtown, wanting to take a tram from Smith Cove or from the base of Magnolia Bridge up Queen Anne Hill. I mean, that would be a very beautiful view for sure up Magnolia Hill. So it's one of those ideas that I think when people say it, they're like, oh, it sounds like monorail. Like it sounds like crazy, like a crazy rich people scheme for transit, but it's actually something that they use effectively in other countries and can be more affordable than building tunnels and options. I think at one point when they were putting in Sound Transit, there was somebody who was actually who's like, we shouldn't have a train, we should have an aerial tram. And we were like, no, we're going to have a train. But I do think that I was just noting that that's something that it's not as if the concept has never been proposed. I just think it's never been proposed in like in a way that would make sense for a lot of people. So.
Okay, well, so maybe with comments, you don't have to have one comment that incorporates everything that you're thinking. You can send in one comment just on where you think the Ballard stop should be and where you think the buses should drop off, or whatever you're thinking about that. You could also make comments about if, and this is public on the advisory committee meeting. It is public on the Sound Transit website now, the entire presentation. So make comments about the tram or this consolidated station will work if, and who knows?
We'll make sure that there are links to the comment section if people, so you can freeform your comments. If we can get together something that's a simple, click here, here's a comment. If you agree with it, it makes the comment. I mean, it fills it out and you just hit send, but the email shows that it comes from you, or the comment shows, so that because we could collectively make a comment, but that's one. And the goal is to have
a million
many
gazillion
people making the same comment in order to be persuasive. So, okay.
Paula, can I ask one more, or make one more suggestion, because I think it's important?
Yeah.
Can you make it so that if you elect the underground all the way, that the only way you agree with it is if the tram is built now? Because if they promise it later, or if they have a route with the buses, even if that would accommodate you, a year from now, when the budget gets tight, then they take the buses away. So.
Oh, it absolutely could be conditional. I mean, that would, and I'm sorry you froze up, Denny, but I definitely, maybe I've frozen.
Good point.
So, yeah.
So that's it.
I mean, we have said to Metro many times that if you want to train people to, take the bus or use Rapid Ride or use mass transit, get us off of Magnolia regularly. But they say, no one takes the bus.
Right.
It's because it's not convenient. So let's build a tram. I like that.
Okay, we will get back with some good information. Again, I'll share it with everybody on the board, and we'll publish it on the website. We'll broadcast it widely because, of course, comment period will end as we know it before our next board meeting. So this will be our last chance to solicit input, and hopefully we can come up with something that gives people some simple options. You can just click on it, either take the comment as it is, or maybe edit it yourself and then send it off. And thank you, Janice.
Paula, could I ask a question? I know that Parker is on the call. Has your office been interfacing with Sound Transit or giving input for our segment?
That would be a better option, or a better question for
Jacob.
I'd be happy to check in with him and CC you on it.
Great.
To my knowledge, we've gotten a couple of briefings, but we haven't been actively engaged beyond what we're hearing from community councils and other community stakeholders.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, I think we need to kind of move on. And again, thank you, Janice. It's a complicated project. And if you had not been deeply in it for many years, we would not even have this level of refined presentation. So thank you again.
And well, thank you for allowing me to have my head spin publicly about this.
Sort of like The Exorcist.
Yes.
So,
it's like, what?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Thanks, everybody. And we'll include the slides that Janice presented as well, and some links. Although again, it gets very deep very quickly. So okay. Is we have well, let me say this. So we have a date for the Queen Anne Farmers Market, June 9th, from 3 to 7:30 is when the Queen Anne Community Council will have the community booth. And I don't know if Matt is on tonight. Matt, if you're here, speak up. He wanted to come and talk about what's going on with the market. Maybe that's next month. So anyway, so I'll be sending something out to everyone asking you to pick an hour or two that you'd like to come and represent the council and meet folks. We'll also, if you have ideas for any kind of just interactive things for adults or kids, that'd be great, so that we have something that attracts people to the community booth. Otherwise, they don't want to stop and see us. And I think that is that. Let's see. I'm going to just comment briefly. You'll hear more about the Mayor's Day of Service, which thank goodness was moved from April to May. So it is now May 21st. We have a list of projects that we're hoping to get initiated. If you have an idea for a project you'd like to lead, even if it's just you and another friend, that's fine. Let me know. We've asked about doing like cleanups on the stairs, the Magnolia staircases that go all over. So if you have a favorite stair that you use, that'd be a great one. And then I'm working with somebody in the mayor's office who's heading this up. So we'll be submitting a list of all the things that we come up with. I know Margaret and Picture Perfect are taking Queen Anne Avenue, so that'll be a big project for them as well. So that's that. Let's see what else.
Paula?
Yeah.
Jenny, I hate to, you said Magnolia Stairs. I think you meant Queen Anne.
I meant Queen Anne. I'm sorry. I must be.
Okay, I thought that, but we've been talking Magnolia, so that's all.
Yeah, yeah. I'm on automatic pilot here.
Okay.
So no, Queen Anne Stairs. We'll let Magnolia have their own group. And the next thing I'll comment on is the thank you everybody for the unanimous support for the electrification of Pier 66. And that our letter went to Rosie at the port and was included in their packet to Senator Patty Murray. So again, thanks everybody for doing that on such short notice. Jasmine, if you have some just quick maybe dates on what the redistricting overview schedule looks like, just so people can be aware of when that's happening, because it is the redistricting for our city districts. So we will not change districts, but what constitutes District 7 is, well, in fact, will change. So
yeah, I'm just pulling up my email from my other device with the general timeline. And so what's kind of happened so far is that the commission hired a GIS consultant that drafted up some maps. There were 4 maps that consultant drafted with no like commissioner input. And those, I believe, are just kind of like starting points for the commissioners to just work from to develop their ideas of maps. And so May and July will be public hearings, currently planned for 1 hearing per district, but the coalition that I'm on, Seattle Redistricting Justice for Seattle, is asking for multiple hearing options, just that there's more opportunity for folks to be heard. But what's currently on the books is 1 hearing per district in from May to July. There's currently been some public comment sessions for the redistricting commission meetings. And then during August, there won't be any hearings. They'll kind of be on like hiatus for August. And then in September is when the draft final maps will be released. There will be comments, press releases, and organizing public comment. And then October 15th would be the deadline for comments, and November 8th would be when the final maps would be approved, according to this timeline I have. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. It looks like the last meeting for the 12th was canceled. I wasn't able to make the most recent coalition meeting. So I'm catching up on the, caught up on the notes earlier, but that's what I've gathered. And yeah, we're in that period of comment both on like the process. I'll let someone grab their phone.
Someone can silence their phone, please. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, and then the like real big public hearings will be in May, June, and July. So keep an eye out for that.
Okay. Thanks, Jasmine. And if you can shoot me something with those dates, we'll make sure they're on the website and there's a link to that information. So anybody interested can make sure that they attend meetings, make comments, whatever is needed. Okay, elections, we have some coming up, and Beth Bonnell is once again spearheading these are the public elections, I should say, state elections and so forth. So she is going to be connecting with Dave Kaplan and possibly the folks from Uptown to put together a candidates forum, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that. So it's the same team that worked on this last year. And Dave, hi, good to see you. Anyway, so Josh Daniel, Laurel Thacker, and Sean Champagne. Am I missing somebody, Beth?
Nope, that's everybody. Thank you.
Okay, so stay tuned for that. May 20th is filing deadline. August 2nd is the primary election, and then November 8th is the general election. Okay. In-person meetings, and then we'll go to one last item on which we'll vote. So in-person meetings, this came up during our most recent discussion, and I am looking for a facility that can accommodate the group. I'm waiting to hear back from Seattle Pacific to see if they might let us use their one of their classrooms or some meeting space that they have. I submitted the application and I checked with them once, but didn't hear back today. So we'll see how that goes. What I am suggesting we consider, and this is something we can discuss further, is that there are pros and cons to having in-person and virtual meetings. I think sometimes we get more people at virtual meetings because you have to get dressed up and travel, but it's really nice to have in-person meetings as well. So we might try something where we have quarterly in-person or something like that. So anyway, as soon as we hear back about the availability of facilities, then we can make some sort of decisions on that. Our community center will not be available for meetings, so it won't be available for anything. And I think that's all of that. So,
Paula?
yeah, go ahead.
One
I was gonna
sec.
say, question.
Just before we get too far, I thought that like a year or so that the church to the south side of Safeway, they had, I think verbally or something, had agreed that we could use that. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Yes, yeah, and I haven't gone back to them yet. And part of the reason I was waiting was they're going to be on the edge of all the construction at Safeway. And I don't know what that's going to do in terms of if people want to drive and park. Anyway, don't know what that's going to look like. I thought about,
I just want to let you know that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I thought about all the churches, because if we can, maybe get a little farther afield from that little segment, but nevertheless, yeah. So we'll see how that goes. And also maybe something walkable would be really great too. Okay, Sharon, yeah, go ahead.
Paula, years ago, we did meet in Desmarais Hall at Seattle Pacific University. but that was many years ago before all the congestion in the neighborhood. And it's absolutely impossible to park around the campus at night. So, well, I have qualms about in-person meetings, but I definitely would like to favor a different location if we do move to in-person.
Okay.
It's
That's
going to be
great.
really difficult, and we'll have to walk maybe blocks and, alone
Yeah.
at night. And
Yeah,
unless
that's-
they would allow us to park in one of their lots, and I don't think that's something that they'll approve. So,
That's a good point. Yeah. So, okay, good. Well, hopefully we'll have more than one option. They may also want money. I know that that's been an option as well. So, or a concern as well. Okay, so there will be more to come on that, but just know that it hasn't been forgotten. Okay, now I want to take a few minutes and review the board responsibilities document and have us vote on that document. So Beth, did you have that to pull up somewhere so you can screen share?
No, I can. I think everybody should have gotten it on their email.
Yeah, you should have received it. Do I need to pull it up for any reason? I certainly can, or does everybody have it? Or you've looked at it? Is there anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about? Okay, great. So,
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be we're not going to be wordsmithing it right now. I don't think that's the objective.
okay, great. Okay. Okay, so everybody received the document. It had like 4 edits. Some were just terminology. So instead of board of trustees, whatever it was called, we're calling it the responsibilities. And as the trustee responsibilities, we inserted sections regarding fiduciary responsibility and conflicts of interest, and changed language on, having read the information, and that was pretty much it. So are there any further changes, alterations, anything for the good of the order? Or can we vote on this at this point?
I'll throw one idea in, the personal gain item. I think it was good. The edits are good. The personal gain, I mean, are we really concerned about financial gain or political gain? Because I feel like, people could gently be angling for things politically, but maybe we're less concerned about that. Maybe we're more thinking about financial gain.
I think that generally the types of conflicts of interest we'd be looking at, and most boards would be looking at, would be financial. And because it's also very hard to define the more intangibles, it would be political. So I think that's where we were going for with this.
So you think it's implied? I'm fine with that.
Okay.
And again, one of the things Paul and I were talking about was that this can be an organic document that we can change many times if we need to. This is just the starting point because there's many ways to improve.
Okay. Any other discussion, or are we ready to, does anybody make a motion to?
This is Deborah.
Hi,
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
And as Beth pointed out, if we need to make a change later on, we do it. But I thought whoever put it together, I'm not clear, was really good and helpful.
Good. And a second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, who is that? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Joe Woods.
Oh, Joe. Okay, great, good. Okay, so we're going to do a roll call vote because that's the easiest. So
do it.
Paula?
Go ahead.
Didn't Don have his hand up?
I did not see it,
He
but if
put
you
it
do.
down, but it was up, I
Oh,
thought.
I'm sorry. Okay, no, go ahead, Don. I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It was before the motion was on the table, but it is actually okay to discuss now that the motion has been seconded. I just wanted to explain myself before I vote. Just in the last 5 weeks, just a couple of things have come up that I've been involved in with other groups and things. And I understand. I doubt anyone will see this the way I do, and that's okay. But it did clarify for me how I felt about this. And it sounds odd, but I'm for me personally, the idea that I have to confirm my commitment once a year feels very odd to me. I have more trust in everybody than I guess they have for me, maybe. I don't know how to say it. I just have more trust in people being able to do this. The second thing is that especially under the collaboration and communication, and partly in the trustee responsibilities, the top section there, I find much of this very much subject to people's own opinions of how they're looking at things. It's very subjective, and like I said, I've just had a couple of experiences in the last number of weeks, not that, that helped clarify my feeling about this. Sometimes I think people don't know how to look beyond themselves as much as they think they do. So you will see that I very respectfully, because I do respect everything that was done here, and I understand the intent. But when I vote no, I just want you to understand why. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for your comments. Anybody else, or are we ready to? Carolyn?
Don, to one point of yours, I will say, having worked at a nonprofit, it's pretty common for the board on nonprofits to annually sign something saying they'll abide by the, not the rules, or they'll follow the code of conduct or whatever else, that they'll support what's happening. So I don't see that as unusual. I realize it hasn't been happening for this group, but in terms of the bigger world of boards, I don't think it's unusual.
Okay, thanks for that comment. Anybody else? Okay, Beth, call the roll.
Okay, so I'm just going to do a roll call, and it's going to be a yes or no. No need to comment on why you're voting a particular way. Marina? She's out. Ben?
Yes.
Yes. Denny? Denny?
We can't hear you, Denny. Sorry.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, I'm a yes. Creighton?
Yes.
Okay, Sean, I don't think Sean is here. Laura Corby?
Yes.
Josh is not here. Carolyn?
Yes.
Ben is not here. Don, I think you're a no, but I'll let you express that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, okay. Jessica is not here. Bob Kettle?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Jasmine?
Yes.
I don't think Hannah is here. Nicole, also not here. Laurel and Joe Woods?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, it passes.
Sorry, do we have a quorum? Sharon, do we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum.
We do, and we actually, Marina was on. She dropped off just a little bit ago. So
I'll double check the vote just to make sure, okay?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are missing.
Yeah, I'll double check it though, Sharon. Thank you for that.
Okay. It's kind of getting late, but let's have really quick comments from our committees, and then we can wrap it up. So we're going to go in alphabetical order. Denny, anything for the good of the order from Lurk?
I'm just going to say that we didn't have a meeting last week, but I have something that's kind of could be exciting that I'm hoping to get for this month or maybe next month. and that is a person by name of Kathleen Wolf, who actually was part of the appeal process, and the importance for our mental health to have trees and some open space while still meeting some goals of density. And that as we grow, that it's a big issue. So I'm hoping to have her come and talk to us because I found her really interesting. I learned a lot.
Great, that sounds
I'll
exciting.
let you know when it's coming.
Okay. Don?
Yes, I sent out an email to everyone about being able to comment on the 6-year budget for the Seattle Parks District. Would appreciate it if you filled that out. I hope I'm going to encourage you because to go for Smith Cove Park. And I want to thank Ms. Sharon Levine for even being quicker than an email from the parks that I had been expecting to give me this information so that I could forward it out to everyone. And please send it to your friends. You know, if you're interested in money for any park, anything you want, this is where the money's going to come from. So I encourage you, if you've got a favorite park, go for it. And the 12th Avenue West and West Howe Park, I know this is going to be a real shock to Bob, but it was last week hydro-seeded, and it is finally opened. So all you people that were maybe using it beforehand or even daring to look at it, that was when it was closed. What was the last one? If you noticed, there are signs up now at Big Howe. Amazingly enough, I actually talked to the electrical contractor a year ago who was going to do the lighting installation. So I don't know what's happened, but in March, they're putting it out to bid, and they're planning on starting construction somewhere between June and September. And of course, the community center is still closed. All right, that's it.
Okay, and that'll all be in the minutes and the newsletter, and the link to the parks plan will be on the website as well, so that it's easy for people to find. Yeah, Deborah?
Yeah, just one quick question. I heard the community center a couple of times. Quick question. Any idea on when it's going to open?
They had originally scheduled it for all year, that it would be closed. I think they closed, I'm trying to think if they closed in September, October, and so they were saying it was going to take at least a year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I will email the person in charge of that project, and I'll get an answer for you.
And I think Councilmember Lewis's office is just looking into that too, so to see when we might get our community center back. Okay, anything else?
Is our swimming pool open?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, Bob, public safety.
Good evening. Yes, we had a public safety meeting last month, and it was with our new director of public safety, Andrew Meyerberg. It went really well. We've had great interaction with our new director of public safety, which I think is to our collective benefit to have that person at such a key position in the city administration, aware of what's going on in Queen Anne. Talked about a number of issues that we've spoken before, and we'll have follow-up meetings to conclude on the topic that was brought up regarding the chop shop on the old car wash just south of the Ballard Bridge on 15th. But we talked about a lot of other issues too. We hope to get him out for a walkabout and windshield tour or windshield tour at some point too. For this month, looking at shifting to emergency preparedness, leveraging our great emergency preparedness point of contact, Bill Fay. And that would be, I know one document said the 25th, but I believe it'll be the 26th. That's it, quick and short today.
I'll make sure that date's corrected. I apologize if I got it wrong. Jasmine, transportation.
Yeah, we had a meeting, talked about the boulevard and some of the issues we've kind of been seeing and what are potential like opportunities. I reached out to Jacob's office after the meeting to see if we could have the opportunity to talk with SDOT and parks together so that we can kind of like figure out what's available to us without having all of those roadblocks and everything. And we also are waiting to hear more back about that meeting, and B, the area around Upper Kinnear over on Olympic, and it's something that Councilmember Lewis's office has been advocating for and reaching out repeatedly for more information from SDOT to get it back on the books again and rolling again, but have not gotten a response yet. So we're still awaiting more information on that. We have our next meeting scheduled for, I'm trying, why does it never pull up the full calendar when I'm looking for it? The 3rd is on the 21st this month. And so I'll send out an email to our transportation list to see if there's any topics to discuss at that meeting. Yeah. Anything else to add, Paula?
No, we are going to be featured on the Parks Foundation website for the Big Give for the Co-Kids Crossing. So we're going to get some pictures, and update the website for Co-Kids Crossing a little bit, so that it looks a little bit more interesting, and people can donate when the Parks Foundation does the Big Give. So we may have to hand mix concrete. Other than that, that's all I know. So, but new volunteer opportunities. So
okay, get those hours. Dawn, was there anything else you wanted to add? You were at the meeting as well and had a lot of insight to share.
No, I think you did it. I think the only thing I brought up was there's quite a bit of encroachment on the boulevard, and I've been working with parks for 15 years. I have been promised more than once from the very superintendent on down that they would deal with them. So if we could get the encroachments and get them included in the Parks Boulevard, I think people would be surprised at how we could solve a lot of the things about walking and bikes and car traffic and, well, the whole thing. All right, that's it.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that is everything that's on the agenda. Does anybody have anything else for the good of the order? We will have next month, just a second, Bob. Next month, Ann Davison, City Attorney Ann Davison will be our guest, so that'll be interesting. And Bob, go.
Just a quick good of the order, and this is something that I've been engaged on with my VFW hat on, and that relates to Memorial Stadium. I've been working with the city and the school district, Seattle Public Schools, on this, primarily to the point of the memorial wall, which is part of Memorial Stadium, but definitely engaged with the levee pass. Things are pushing forward to design, and the veteran community will be part of that process. As this plays out between the school district and the city and pretty much Seattle Center. And so it'll be interesting, but we'll definitely make the stadium right better. And as part of that, the memorial wall will also be drastically improved from its poor condition right now. So, and by the way, I've been working with the school district on that, and they've gone out, work orders to clean it up and the like. There's a lot of things that are broken with it, which I don't think are going to be cleaned up in the near term, but at least fixed in the near term. But at least the litter and so forth will be better taken care of. So just a quick update on that.
Good. We'll look for more to come on that. There are a number of things that are posted on the website. If you get a chance to take a look, there's Laura Jenkins at Department of Neighborhoods is doing a monthly overview of various city matters with links, lots of them that are really good. Take a look at that. If you want to recycle your plastic water bottles, We Heart Seattle is taking those to give them to the unhoused in anticipation of supporting hydration and a warm summer. And Beth Bennell is the contact point for that. And if you have water bottles you want to donate, get a hold of Beth and she'll make sure that you get connected. Seattle Kraken is hosting an environmental justice panel on April 13th. There are details on the website about that. Downtown Seattle Association issued its report on the state of downtown. You can read that or watch the presentation. Links on the website. And Tanya Stevens isn't here tonight, but that project that she was involved with or in charge of was the rat abatement project for the 21 Boston construction project. So rather than using poisons, they actually used a birth control for rats. So the rats eat what they eat and it causes them to not have baby rats, which is a good thing. It's been highly successful. And sorry, I don't remember the name of the company that did that, but they are now launching that program and it will be available for residential applications as well as I think other businesses. So if you have standard bait boxes, you might think about changing to rat birth control in the event. So there's she was going to put together something. I'll have something on the website. So watch for rat stuff. And that's it. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? And we're really running right up against 9 o'clock here. So thanks, everybody.
Paula,
Yeah, go ahead, Margaret.
so you have a connection on the Queen Anne Community Council's website to local groups?
To local, I'm sorry, to local what?
Queen Anne, other groups on Queen Anne Hill and what they're doing, what they're up to?
If they let me know, if somebody sends me, you know, a notification or something like that. But yeah, absolutely, we can put something there. I
think most of the groups, I mean, I know Picture Perfect Queen Anne is, and I would expect that the Queen Anne Farmers Market will also, and the helpline will all be taking part in Give Big, which is May 3rd and 4th.
Okay. Okay, helpline, Picture Perfect, and the farmers market. Yeah.
I mean, you may want to check with them and make sure that they're all, but I know for a number of years, the Queen Anne Helpline has been participating and also the Queen Anne Farmers Market, and so have we.
Yeah. As I get those, I mean, I get a lot of those personally, so I'll put them on the website. Maybe I'll just make a section for the Give Big and list everybody who's participating in that so that it makes it easy for folks to find. So yeah, good, thank you. If you can send me, if you have something for Picture Perfect right now, you can send me, then we'll get it on there as the first one. I haven't seen anything from anybody else yet.
I think we're still putting our
We'll have a
information
placeholder
together, but as soon
Okay.
as we have it all done, yes, I'm happy to send you something.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, thanks everybody for hanging in. Is there anything else that we need to cover? Otherwise, we will have our next meeting with Ann Davison.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
You need to talk to Paula privately.
Just 1 second.
All right. I got my brother-in-laws here, so I'll take off and but thanks for the meeting.
You're welcome.
And, no, I think we're good with Bill Fay, by the way. I will as you said, as I told you, I'll be traveling, but we'll make it work with Bill.
Okay, yeah, and I sent you that little outline today.
Yes.
Okay, so
By the way, yes, I got that. We'll follow up. But I also wanted to say that Sean, Officer Weissmiller, said thank you so much for the recognition. I really appreciate it.
Oh, good, thank you.
I had a couple little follow-ups with him. So
I'm gonna email him and let him know that I feel like an outsider because I don't have his secret double pinky sort of phone number. But I know you.
No. You're taking over the public safety committee chair position instead of the overall board chair position, you would have it.
I can't. If I step down from chairing the board, then I'll do public safety.
Okay. All right. We'll take care. I have to go see what's going on with my brother-in-laws.
Okay, thanks, Bob, very much.
Bye.
Good night.